With Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin banned from ringside, the CEO of the Hurt Business found himself in unfamiliar territory without being able to lean on his backup. Though MVP slowed the action to a more methodical pace momentarily, Crews used heightened aggression to counter MVP's playmaker attempt into a toss powerbomb for the victory. Lashley and Benjamin hit the ring immediately after the bell, but Crews craftily evaded their grasp, United States title in tow. Asuka came up empty-handed in the first leg of her Summerslam doubleheader, falling to SmackDown Women's Champion Bayley thanks to the other half of the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. The Empress of Tomorrow dominated much of the bout until Bayley dropped her knee first on the apron, then continued to isolate her left knee with targeted offense. Bayley even caught Asuka coming off the top rope to lock in a knee bar and inflict further damage. Sasha Banks proved to be the difference maker, however. Asuka blasted her off the apron with a hip attack meant for Bayley, and the miscue allowed the champion to roll up Asuka for the victory. The Golden Role Model's larger strategy became clear following the bell, as Banks hit the ring to pummel Asuka, and they dropped her with a brutal double-team attack, giving Banks the advantage going into her Raw Women's title defense later in the night. The Street up by Andrade and Angel Garza. Andrade and Garza looked poised to claim the titles early, making frequent tags as they isolated Montez Ford and wore him down. But Ford backflipped out of Andrade's back suplex, tagging in Angelo Dawkins for the first time, and Dawkins unleashed a high-energy attack on his foes. Ford accidentally collided with Zelina Vega on the apron, which commanded Andrade's attention as he checked on her on the outside. Meanwhile, no one was home when Garza looked to make a tag to Andrade, and Dawkins dropped Garza with the cash-out, teeing up Ford to hit a spectacular rotation frog splash to retain the titles. Mandy Rose sent her ex-best friend packing, defeating Sonya Deville in a brutal no disqualification loser leaves WWE match. The Golden Goddess was more than ready to match Deville's trademark viciousness, slamming her into the steel steps and ring post, as well as delivering a suplex on the ramp in the early going. The Pride Fighter struck with a huge pump kick, then used a steel chair as her equalizer, while bad-mouthing Mandy relentlessly. Rose fought back and obliterated her former tag team partner with a trio of jumping bicycle knees, followed by an underhook facebuster. For good measure, she dropped Deville with one final knee to force her out of WWE. While Deville erupted into an unhinged tantrum at ringside, Otis joined Mandy in a jubilant celebration in the ring. His in-ring debut wasn't enough to topple Seth Rollins in a barbaric and highly personal street fight at SummerSlam. Rollins taunted his inexperienced adversary from the get-go, even allowing Dominik to grab him in a headlock before sending him to the mat. The Monday Night Messiah gave Dominik a mocking round of applause after he was dropped with several impressive arm drags from the underdog. Dominik unleashed his rage when he found his trusty kendo stick, which he also used to deliver a top-rope Russian leg sweep through a table, but Rollins kicked out at 2 moments later after a frog splash. Commandeering the advantage, Rollins screamed at Rey Mysterio, who was at ringside, baiting him to interfere after he had promised his son he wouldn't get involved. As if the issue wasn't already personal enough, Murphy interfered to blast Dominik with a ripcord knee before handcuffing Rey to the ropes. Dominik dug deep for one final rally, hitting a beautiful 619 before Rollins countered a second frog splash attempt with knees to the midsection. With Rey handcuffed only feet away, Rollins flattened his son with a devastating stomp to make the pin academic. Instrumental in Bayley retaining the SmackDown Women's Championship, but the role model couldn't return the favor, accidentally helping cost Banks the Raw Women's title against Asuka. The Legit Boss had a leg up from the opening bell, targeting Asuka's knee that Bayley focused on in their earlier matchup. Banks looked set to cruise to an easy victory after hitting an incredible flipping powerbomb to the outside from the apron, dropping the Empress of Tomorrow with a sickening thud. But Asuka turned the tables, demonstrating her resolve with a top rope missile dropkick despite her injured knee. Suddenly desperate and on the defensive, Banks pleaded with Bayley at ringside for reassurance. But Bayley was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and she moved out of the way to avoid the same hip attack that Asuka hit Banks with in Bayley's own title defense earlier in the evening. Asuka reversed the legit boss's Banks statement attempt, pulling her into an Asuka lock in the middle of the ring, where Banks had no choice but to submit. All Banks and Bayley could do was look at each other in disbelief, suddenly having one fewer piece. Randy Orton's WWE Championship clash lived up to its billing as a true heavyweight clash. McIntyre retained after one-upping the Viper in clever fashion. Orton wasted no time playing mind games, setting up the champion for multiple false starts at the match's onset before nearly hitting two early RKO attempts. The Legend Killer soon initiated an all-out onslaught on the outside of the ring, bashing McIntyre into the post, barricade, announce table and anything else at his disposal. McIntyre later put Orton on the defensive when he borrowed a page from Ric Flair's playbook, applying a figure-4 leg lock just weeks after the Viper had taken out his mentor. Orton escaped only with a thumb to the eye while blocking the official's view of his infraction. The two In a matchup between two of the most destructive forces in WWE history, the Fiend Bray Wyatt prevailed over the monster Braun Strowman to become the new Universal Champion. As expected, this Falls Count Anywhere match resembled nothing like a traditional wrestling bout, instead looking more like a demolition derby. The action spilled outside the ring in the opening minutes as the Fiend showcased his inhuman power with a chokeslam to the larger Strowman before delivering multiple neck-snapping maneuvers. The melee only picked up from there as Strowman answered with a chokeslam of his own on the announce table after the rivals crashed through a portion of the ringside barricade. Wyatt used a toolbox stored under the ring as a devastating weapon against his former Wyatt family ally. They soon brawled to the backstage area, demolishing everything in sight before Wyatt hit a vicious Sister Abigail on the bare floor. Returning to the ring, Strowman used a box cutter to dismantle the canvas, exposing the wooden boards underneath the mat. But it would lead to his own downfall as Wyatt delivered two Sister Abigails on the exposed wood, putting away the monster to reclaim the Universal title.